This pattern is about to ramp up in a big way, and it's not slowing down anytime soon. A prolonged stretch of severe weather is now developing across the United States, and this could last at least a full week. The first round begins today and tomorrow across the southern plains and the Midwest, where a highly unstable atmosphere may allow powerful rotating supercells to form. These storms could bring large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes from Texas all the way up into Wisconsin. But don't get locked in on just that, because a much more dangerous and widespread setup is expected by Tuesday and Wednesday, expanding from Texas into Michigan and Ohio. And if everything lines up just right, we could be looking at multiple strong tornadoes across a huge portion of the country. This is shaping up to be a very active stretch, so let's get straight into it. We've got a lot to cover in this forecast, including several updates to the severe weather outlook. And we'll start with today, Sunday. Right now, there's a slight risk of severe weather in place from Dallas-Fort Worth, stretching back toward the Texas-Mexico border. A broader marginal risk extends from central Kansas down into Houston. We also have additional marginal risks up in parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, even a small portion of Michigan, and even out in the Pacific Northwest. Take a look at this map. For today, the main threats with any storms that manage to develop will be damaging winds and large, possibly very large, hail. In fact, if storms fire later today from Wichita, Kansas down through San Antonio, hail could exceed 2 inches in diameter. That's significant, so if you're in that zone, it's a good idea to protect your vehicle now. There is also a tornado risk today, but this is where things get tricky. This is a very conditional setup. We're honestly not sure how many storms will even form, but if one does, it could quickly become intense, producing large hail, damaging winds, and even a strong tornado. So if you live near Wichita, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Dallas, or San Antonio, stay weather aware this afternoon, especially between about 5 and 6 p.m. when a rogue supercell could try to develop. Up north, near Duluth, Minnesota, there's even a very low-end chance of a strong tornado there as well. Now let's move into Monday. Confidence increases. We're expecting a more organized and more widespread severe weather threat, especially across the Midwest. There's already a level 2 out of 5 slight risk for areas like Minneapolis and Milwaukee, with Chicago included in a lower level risk zone. There's also another slight risk down across Oklahoma City into Abilene, Texas. Damaging winds will be a big factor. Gusts between 50 and 70 miles per hour are possible, but the hail threat really stands out here, especially in the Midwest. Near Minneapolis and Wausau, Wisconsin, we could be looking at hail up to 3 inches in diameter. That's about the size of an apple. Further south into Oklahoma and Texas, hail could still reach golf ball size. And then there's the tornado threat. It becomes more elevated Monday afternoon and evening, especially near Milwaukee and just south of Minneapolis around Owatonna. A couple of strong tornadoes cannot be ruled out. We'll likely be live covering this, so make sure you're subscribed and notifications are turned on. Now Tuesday, this is the day that really stands out. There's growing concern that this could turn into a high-end severe weather event across parts of the Midwest and Southern Plains. The ingredients are coming together: strong wind shear, rich moisture, and the potential for discrete supercells. That's the key word, discrete. If storms remain isolated and rotating, the risk level goes up significantly. We could be talking about a more serious tornado threat along with very large hail and damaging winds. Right now, the Storm Prediction Center has this as a slight risk, but don't be surprised if that gets upgraded soon. Down in the southern plains, a dry line setup could still trigger a few supercells Tuesday afternoon and evening, so areas from Wichita down through Lubbock and Abilene, you'll want to stay alert as well. And it doesn't stop there. Wednesday brings yet another round. A slight risk stretches from Milwaukee down into Dallas, with widespread thunderstorms expected. Damaging winds, large hail, and a few tornadoes will all be possible again. So yes, this is a multi-day event, and you need to stay locked in. And even by Friday, another severe weather setup is already showing signs of developing. This could be another impactful day, especially from just south of Minneapolis down into Oklahoma City. This pattern just keeps going, so make sure you're subscribed. This is going to be a busy week with multiple live streams and storm chasers out in the field. Now let's talk about why this is happening. I want to break down the setup a bit. Who's most at risk and why? Starting with moisture, specifically dew points.
Up in the Midwest, we've got a low pressure system moving across Minnesota. That's helping create conditions supportive of supercells capable of producing large hail and even a strong tornado later today. But further south, we've got a dry line across Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, and honestly, it's not that impressive right now. The moisture difference across it isn't very sharp. Normally, you'd expect a big drop-off in dew points over a short distance, but here it's more gradual, and that reduces the forcing needed to trigger storms. That's a big reason why today is so uncertain. On top of that, temperatures aloft aren't cooling rapidly, which means lapse rates are weaker, and that can create a cap, basically a lid on the atmosphere that prevents storms from forming. Now tomorrow, Monday, that changes a bit. The dry line sharpens, especially from Kansas City down into North Texas, and in the Midwest, a warm front sets up, helping storms fire east of the low pressure system. That could allow supercells to develop along the dry line, while clusters of storms expand across the Midwest. Tuesday depends heavily on what happens Monday, but overall, the environment becomes even more favorable for severe weather. And here's something important. If any discrete supercells form on any of these days, the environment is supportive of tornadoes. We've got strong wind shear in place. Tornado parameters are elevated from Wisconsin all the way down into Texas. But again, the issue today is storm development. Tomorrow, though, looks more favorable. If storms fire along the dry line from southern Oklahoma into Iowa or Minnesota, we could be dealing with significant supercells capable of strong tornadoes, very large hail, and damaging winds. Otherwise, storms along the warm front in Wisconsin and Minnesota could still produce massive hail, possibly up to apple or even teacup size, and a few tornadoes. Tuesday again looks favorable, but still uncertain in terms of exact storm placement. Right now, the Midwest stands out as the area of greatest concern. Now let's go into timing. Today, there's honestly not much happening for most of the day. Storm coverage will be very limited through the evening. Morning convection could dominate and prevent storms from forming altogether. But if storms do break through, the main window would be between 5 and 9 p.m. across Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. Even if we don't see much development, areas like Abilene, Waco, and San Antonio could still get some hail-producing storms. So again, protect your vehicles. Up north near Duluth, storms could develop anytime between late morning and early evening, bringing isolated hail and wind. Now Monday, we have much higher confidence. Storms should begin developing around 3 to 4 p.m. in the Midwest, especially near Minneapolis. These will likely grow into clusters, producing large hail and damaging winds. But if any storm interacts with that warm front, that's where tornado potential increases. If you're commuting Monday evening in places like Minneapolis or Wausau, keep a close eye on the weather. Now Tuesday, this is when things really get going. Storms could begin as early as 1 to 3 p.m. in West Texas, producing hail, wind, and possibly a tornado. By 4 to 5 p.m., storms begin firing in the Midwest, just north of St. Louis and near Wausau. This will be right around rush hour. And then by 7 to 8 p.m., storms expand rapidly from northern Illinois into Wisconsin and toward Green Bay. Damaging winds, very large hail, and tornadoes will all be possible. Later in the evening, storms push into Michigan, toward Detroit and Fort Wayne. And overnight into Wednesday morning, things begin to settle down briefly. Then Wednesday, another widespread round of storms. This day still has uncertainty, but it could be another significant setup depending on how the system evolves. Right now, models show a fairly organized low-pressure system near Omaha, with storms developing from Texas into Iowa. These may not be fully isolated, more clustered, which could favor wind and hail, but tornadoes are still on the table. Storm coverage will be much broader on Wednesday, especially from Wisconsin down to Houston. Thursday may still bring isolated severe weather into the Ohio Valley. And then Friday, another potentially dangerous day. Better chances for storms to fire from Iowa into Kansas and down into Oklahoma, with all hazards possible again. Saturday could continue the trend from Michigan down into the Gulf Coast. We might finally get a break by Sunday or Monday, but even that's not guaranteed. This is an extremely active pattern, so stay alert. Make sure you're subscribed, turn on notifications, and be ready for live coverage as storms develop. And before we wrap up, quick update. We've completely upgraded our 24/7 live weather stream. It now includes live radar, real-time warnings, SPC outlooks, and automatic zoom-ins on active tornado warnings, so you can track everything as it happens. Check it out using the top link in the description or head over to the More Max Velocity channel. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next update or live stream.